The UH-60 Black Hawk is more troop transport, medical evacuation. But as a crew chief, my primary role is to assist the pilots in some of the essential duties that we perform during flight and in combat. Some of those duties include assisting with airspace surveillance, obstacle avoidance, calculation of fuel consumption, and some of the other more essential duties such as aerial gunnery and rescue force operations.
The pilot's role is to operate the aircraft safely and accomplish the mission. For the parameters of the aircraft, what we're looking at mostly is maintaining safe altitude, meaning our distance between us and the Earth, a safe airspeed. So whatever the mission parameters we have, we might need to go faster or slower for fuel consumption rates, for how far we can fly, or based on what we've got on the outside of the aircraft. In the nose of the UH-60 helicopter, we have Avionics Bay, and typically there's a couple of batteries in the next model. Underneath, we've got lights. Lets us illuminate where we're going. You can see there's antennas down underneath the helicopter. They help us communicate with line of sight. It's best for them to be underneath the helicopter when we're talking to the ground. You've got the cockpit and cockpit door. Our hydraulic deck up top is where all of our flight controls and the hydraulic pumps are. The rotor system on top of the aircraft is mounted on top of the drive system, and you can see the engine inlet there. So the engines, two engines, both about 2,000 shaft horsepower, drive that drive system and make the rotor turn. Here's the cabin. When we're doing any sort of internal load operation, whether it's passengers or cargo, they'll go inside. Or there's a cargo hook that dangles beneath, and we can haul a load on that.
This is the cabin section of the UH-60 Black Hawk, where the crew chief, myself, this is where our station is, and we'll go ahead and talk about that. So where I'm seated is the crew chief section or the flight medic section, depending on the aircraft's mission set. We've got two seats, one on either side of the aircraft, where we'll have a crew member on either side, helping to assist the pilots with airspace surveillance and any other duties that they require. In this section, we have our own intercommunications system so that we can communicate with the pilots as well as monitor and communicate on external radios. From here, we also have a good visibility of any passengers or cargo that we may have in the back of the aircraft. This particular aircraft does actually have something really interesting that some of the older models did not, and that's a full rotational seat, so we can actually turn face forward to assist the pilots when we're flying at higher altitudes with limited visibility. From the cabin section, we start to transition back to what we call the transition section. In this particular area of the aircraft, it houses two fuel cells. So the aircraft can carry a maximum of 360 gallons of fuel, which will equate to about 2.5 hours of actual flight time. Moving back from here, this is the exhaust system for the engines. The exhaust system on this particular model aircraft is actually routed up, and the rotor system, as it is spinning, disperses the heat to take away the signature of the aircraft, the heat signature of the aircraft. As we continue down through what we call the tail cone, is, on top of the tail cone here, we have a set of drive shafts, much like on a car. They transition the power from the main transmission back to the intermediate gearbox, and then it routes up to our tail rotor system. Also, what we have back here is, this is known as our stabilator. Our stabilator, it varies its angle up and down to assist the aircraft in maintaining as best of a level attitude as possible. And our tail landing gear system, which, as we are taxiing on the ground, allows the aircraft to pivot about. Everything is done as a team. Once we step under the rotor system, we become one cohesive collective unit.